Hello, and thank you for joining us for our webinar, Getting Started with the Collaborative. We know a lot of you were affected by the weather this weekend, so we really appreciate you taking the time to join us this afternoon to learn a little bit more about the Collaborative. My name is Bethany Lamolinera. I'm the Communications Coordinator here at the Clery Center for Security on campus, and I'll be helping to moderate the webinar today. Just a few things to go over before we can get started. We encourage you to interact with our speakers by typing in questions and comments using the questions pane throughout the presentation. We'll be answering questions live both during the presentation and directly after if time permits. You can also raise your hand by clicking on the blue button on the control panel. We're recording today's session and we'll make the link to the recording available 24 hours post-event via email if you'd like to listen to the presentation again or share with your colleagues. This webinar is intended to introduce participants to the Collaborative. During the next 45 minutes, we'll discuss the current Clery Act compliance and campus safety landscape, the Collaborative goals and intended impact, and the structure of the program. We'll also go over preliminary evaluation data about the Collaborative's impact and the application process and fees associated with the Collaborative program. Presenting in the webinar today will be Abigail Boyer, Assistant Executive Director of Programs, Outreach, and Communications, and Sam Cook, Director of Development and Program Director for the Collaborative. So for now, I will hand it over to Abby Boyer.
Thank you very much, Bethany, and good morning or good afternoon, everyone, depending on where you hail from. Again, my name is Abby Boyer, and I'm the Assistant Executive Director for the Clery Center. And we're just going to go over a little bit about what you can expect from today's webinar. We're going to start out by doing an introduction to our organization if you're unfamiliar with our work and with what we do, to give you more insight on our organization and our mission. We're going to talk about the Collaborative program, the program structure and the benefits of the Collaborative Pilot Program and the Collaborative National Program. We're going to talk a little bit about what our members have to say, the feedback that we've heard thus far from the pilot members in Pennsylvania. We're going to cover how you could join us and join the Collaborative in 2014, and then the part that my colleagues and I certainly would say is our favorite part, we're going to allow some time at the end for questions and ideas. And I would say that through this pilot program that we've had in Pennsylvania, that's one of our favorite parts with the Collaborative, is being able to dialogue with so many colleges and universities about what is most beneficial. But first, I just want to start a little bit by talking about the reason that our organization exists. So on the screen in front of you, you see a picture of Jeanne Clery. And Jeanne Clery was just like any other college student. In 1985, she and her parents, Connie and Howard, were looking to figure out what college or university she was going to attend. And finally, they settled on a college. And one of the things that really always stands out to us when we listen to Connie Clery speak, who's one of our founders, is just how much Jeanne loved her time at her institution. But unfortunately, her time was cut short there when in April of 1986, Jeanne was brutally raped and murdered on her college campus by another student whom she did not know. And Connie and Howard Clery really didn't have a language for how they were going to deal with that. No one ever expects to lose a child, particularly in that way. So what they really decided that they wanted to do, or what they did do, was they started asking questions. Why did this happen? What could we have done to prevent this? And they found that at Jeanne's campus, there had been a number of violent crimes that had occurred within her campus community the year prior to her death. However, the campus community really wasn't aware that these instances had occurred. They really felt as though there needed to be more transparency around campus safety issues, more conversation, more opportunities for prevention. So they really worked for a number of different federal and state laws. Ultimately, the Jeanne Clery Act, which, as you know, requires colleges and universities to report certain crimes that occur on and within that campus community, and also offer a lot of additional information to students, parents, faculty, staff about the climate on that campus. So our mission is we are dedicated to preventing violence, substance abuse, and other crimes on college and university campuses in the United States, and to compassionately assist the victims of these crimes. And we're going to talk in just a little bit about how we do this. But first, I just want to highlight a bit about the Jeanne Clery Act, because a lot of the work that we do centers around the Act. The Jeanne Clery Act was originally passed in 1990 as part of the Student Right to Know Act and Campus Security Act, and many of you are very familiar with the requirements of the Act. There's the annual security report, which has crime statistics as well as policy statements, which our executive director refers to as the Cliff Notes, as to a college or university's policies, information about their campus safety and security and what's available on that college campus. There are ongoing requirements such as the daily crime log, timely warnings and emergency notifications, which provide the campus community with information about what's occurring within that or at that particular college or university, and information on how to keep themselves safe. And then since 1992, there's also been the Campus Sexual Assault Victims Bill of Rights, which affords specific rights to victims of campus sexual assault. And just this year in March, we saw rights for campus sexual assault victims expanded, as well as rights for victims of dating violence, domestic violence, and stalking. And the place that we saw these changes was within the Violence Against Women Act reauthorization, which was passed in March. And the VAWA amendments to Clery, which are informally known as the Campus Sexual Violence Elimination Act, have additional requirements for colleges and universities as to how they respond to victims of domestic violence, dating violence, and stalking, and also the type of prevention that they offer on their campus. So as an organization, we are committed to advocacy. So we provide information and referrals to students, parents, and campus crime victims to make sure that they're aware of their rights and options on campus. We do outreach and education, particularly around National Campus Safety Awareness Month and other initiatives that could really provide information and education about different issues affecting campus safety, like hazing, sexual assault, domestic violence, dating violence, stalking, and some of the issues we've discussed already. And we also provide training and technical assistance. So one of our favorite parts of what we do is really being able to connect with colleges and universities and help answer some of the questions that they're having, and look at how we can bridge gaps if they're identifying gaps within their own campus community, and how we can build on some of the strengths that they're already identifying. And we just wanted to start with this quote from Mary Lou Leary at our Proceeding in Partnership conference in DC last year. And she said, "Thanks to the Clery Act and to the education and awareness the Clery Center has provided over the years, colleges and universities are now much more focused on solving a problem than on admitting one exists." And that's one of our favorite quotes because it really highlights what we've been seeing in our work, in that there are so many colleges and universities that want to do absolutely everything that they can to support their campus community, but they need information and they need resources in order to do so. So at this time, I'm going to hand it over to Sam Cook, who's really going to talk about the collaborative and how the collaborative helps us address these needs.
Thanks, Abby. So the collaborative, which is, we're so excited to have you all here. It's a program that we're really excited to really launch and expand nationally. We initially piloted this program on July 1st in Pennsylvania. We currently have 38 member institutions from the Keystone State participating in the program. And the purpose of the program is to really build on our mission and the work that Abby just described to you all. So the program, the graphic that you're looking at right now, really shows the sort of overarching structure of the program. One of the things that we sort of thought about quite a bit in the last year or so, and even before that, from feedback from our training participants, is really how to solve some of the questions and the problems that kept coming up during our trainings and during the technical assistance services that Abby mentioned before this. So this is really a program that's meant to take issues, for example, of feeling like you're in a silo or feeling like you're the only person on your campus who really cares about these issues, and really being able to not only get institutional buy-in within your own campus community, but to also keep that conversation going and connecting you with different peers who are also doing this work in the field. It's something that we see quite often at our trainings and through different programs like National Campus Safety Awareness Month. We know that there's so much exciting work that's happening at campuses and at institutions. Folks would come to our trainings, they'd feel really inspired and connected. They were able to talk with others about the ideas that they had, the challenges that they were experiencing, and then they'd feel inspired and they'd go back to their campus and they would feel a little bit like they had to have this Sisyphean task and they felt very deflated. So we really wanted to build a program that would help inspire those conversations on an individual campus basis as well as between campuses. So the program is structured in 4 main areas. The first component is learning. This is a learning membership program, so I would argue that's one of the most important aspects of it. We provide online and in-person training and learning opportunities for collaborative members. So these include webinars, which happen right around 6 times a year. Webinars are free for members, and there's also online training components. We just launched an online Clery Act training course in September. And then also things like our in-person regional Jeanne Clery Act trainings and other special workshops. So networking and support is another key aspect of the program. And one of the things that we wanted to build that program out to really, again, connect folks both virtually as well as in person. So one of the areas that we really invested a lot of time and effort into was building a member website that would really help folks to sort of access different peers in a virtual setting. So there's an online discussion board, there's a resource library. You also can connect with folks through in-person events. In the past 6 months or so since the collaborative has launched, we've hosted a number of in-person trainings where members have been able to get together in a room and really talk out problems, talk out solutions to different events. And we know that that's kind of how these solutions will come up. It's not really sitting passively in a webinar like this. It's actually getting out there and listening to ideas that peers have. The third quadrant talks about resources. So like I said, there's an online resource library that members can access through the secure member website that we've built. We're also available, as Abby mentioned, for technical assistance. We've helped review folks, different case studies that they've brought to us. You know, what do I do in this situation? We're always happy to answer those questions in conjunction with your own legal counsel and provide those resources. And so that's something that we really invested in for the collaborative, is making sure folks have access to really multidisciplinary comprehensive resources that can help support them in their unique roles on campus. And then finally, the self-assessment program is a really essential ingredient in the collaborative. So we developed the Jeanne Clery Act self-assessment tool for multidisciplinary campus teams. And what that does is it really allows members to go through, develop a multidisciplinary team, as the title suggests, and review and document existing policies, practices, and procedures, as well as highlight and identify areas that might need a little bit more work. So the tool itself is a really great way for campuses to kind of intentionally document and assess where they're at in terms of Clery compliance specifically. And then we also offer a number of support structures to really help campuses go through that process, because we know that it's more than just a checklist. It can certainly generate a lot of follow-up discussion, and we're here to kind of support that through webinars, through virtual discussions, as well as through in-person workshops. So this is kind of the high level what the program covers. I'm going to get a little bit into why we developed the collaborative, as well as the current campus safety environment, just to give you guys a little bit of sense of that. So why the collaborative? We mentioned this before, and I hope it's pretty obvious, but we feel that the collaborative will really help fulfill our mission of creating safer campus communities. And we hope that that will also fulfill what we know is a mission of everyone on this call as well, which is creating safer campuses for your whole community. So the collaborative is, again, really meant to institutionalize campus safety promising practices, as well as compliance efforts on your campus, and really move from a model of one person or one department into the concept that we think works best, which is really having the whole institution involved, because we know campus safety is truly a shared responsibility. So breaking down silos within and between institutions, again, making sure that that conversation is happening beyond just one department or one person, and then also being able to access a national network of peers who might have come across similar challenges and have really creative solutions that you can then learn about. Connecting with peers and experts. So we're really thrilled to be able to feature a network of experts that we use as faculty members for our trainings, and that we have access to for things like webinars and consultations. So we're thrilled to be able to connect folks who are working in the field with people who are really seen as the go-to authorities on a lot of specific questions relating to threat assessment, relating to different questions you may have about Clery geography or the intersection of Title IX and Clery. So we're really thrilled to be able to feature that expertise consistently throughout the program. Again, solving problems through collaboration. Our trainings tell us that people work really well together, and you tend to have better results when everyone's on the same page. So we know that compliance works best when it's not isolated to one person. So the collaborative provides a framework for institutions to really take it and make it their own. We're really excited to share more information in a couple of minutes about how our members in Pennsylvania have done that already. And we're also excited to see how you all will really transform the program. We know that this program will change. It has to change based on the needs that are expressed by members. So we're really excited that this really is an ongoing problem-solving process. So providing that much needed space for dialogue, this is something we know folks want to talk about. We're excited to talk about it. So it provides this space for people to really come with their challenges and ideas. And then finally, a catalyst for action and change. And I think the timing for this conversation couldn't be better. We know that there's going to be significant policy updates that are taking place next year with the VAWA amendments to Clery, commonly known as Campus Save. So this is a great time to be part of the discussion on what your campus is doing specific to Clery, specific to promising practices in campus safety. And so this is a really great time, if you haven't already, to really think about, well, what are we doing on our campus and how can we improve? So I wanted to get a little into the changing landscape. So Abby mentioned a little bit about our evolving role in the field, and we certainly evolved in part in response to the changes that we saw in the campus safety field or environment. So the chart that you're looking at shows the levels of enforcement from the Department of Education as it relates to program reviews. So what you'll see is that enforcement has really spiked up in the last couple of years. Part of the reason why we changed our role and felt comfortable doing so is because we recognized that there really wasn't as much of a need for that watchdog because the Department of Education was doing quite a good job of enforcing the Clery Act. So we just wanted to provide a little bit of that summary. I think anecdotally it's often talked about in terms of the Department of Ed really increasing its enforcement. So our program staff was able to pull this together just to show a visual of what that landscape looks like. I think it's certainly important to emphasize that this conversation should happen regardless of enforcement of the Department of Education. We believe that the Clery Act and campus safety is an important discussion sort of beyond these program reviews as well. So I'm going to go into a little bit from those program reviews, and there's certainly been more of them to look at lately. Here are some of the most common Clery Act compliance challenges that we've seen, again, coming directly from the program reviews that the Department of Education is providing. So one of the top ones is inconsistent or non-existent underlying policies and practices. Abby mentioned previously the requirements under Clery, one of them being the annual security report. What we often see is that there may be a beautifully constructed annual security report, the policy may sound awesome, but then when you actually ask about the process, it might look a little different, and maybe the policy itself hasn't taken into account a lot of really fabulous programs that are happening that whoever the person was coming up with the annual security report may have been unaware of. So just making sure that those policies and practices are really reflecting each other as opposed to maybe happening in separate spaces. Failure to survey all campus security authorities, CSAs, and/or local law enforcement is also something you'll see quite a bit. Lack of training is really brought up quite a lot in these program reviews, whether that's in terms of folks who are responding to student complaints or responding to crime on campus, or folks who are classifying. Failure to coordinate. So again, we know Clery compliance touches quite a bit of departments. So oftentimes in program reviews, what you'll see is that really a failure to coordinate is highlighted as a primary reason why compliance was not achieved. And then finally, the last two are highlighted in red because these are the ones that come up the most often. So poor record keeping. You are required under Clery to keep 7 years worth of data regarding your Clery compliance efforts. So things like crime logs, your annual security report, and any supporting data. That can often present a challenge, knowing where that information lives, making sure that it's backed up. All of those kinds of things often present challenges for institutions. And then finally, the lack of institutional support. So this is something that comes up time and time again. I think there's been a number of cases in the last year or so that have really highlighted that you may have folks working on the ground who are very intimately aware of what the Clery Act requires and how it intersects with Title IX. But if the board of directors doesn't know what Clery is, or if the president doesn't know what Clery is, or if they know what it is, but it isn't really emphasized, that can create, really set you up for a situation of failure. So These are, again, the Clery Act compliance challenges coming from Department of Ed. And we sort of used that as a framework in addition to the feedback that we saw from training participants and folks who were participating in our other programs as a way of really saying, how can we solve some of these issues that we're seeing time and time again? So as we mentioned, and as those findings show, compliance really is an institutional responsibility. You need, not you should or you want to have, but you need to have leadership and coordination from the top. We know that this is easier said than done. There was a really interesting article I read recently that talked a lot about how difficult it can be. It was in the Chronicle talking about, the dean of students might not want to talk to the director of public safety because, it just involves more work. So we know this is difficult. We know there's a lot on everyone's plate, but we also know that, campus safety really requires, in order for it to be successful, leadership and coordination from multiple departments and on an ongoing basis. So this multidisciplinary effort will look different on every campus. We know that the structure and how things are arranged is unique to each institutional environment, but typically the folks who are involved in these discussions or who are involved in Clery compliance in general include campus police and security, student affairs, general counsel or your legal department, facilities and housing management, human resources, communications and PR, information technology, as well as academic departments. I think it's worth highlighting that Campus Save, the VAWA amendments that Abby mentioned earlier, will really start to pull in some of these different departments much more intentionally. Human resources obviously is involved in making sure that prospective employees have your annual security report. They also are going to be involved in training new employees with Campus Save. So I think it's worth mentioning that in some ways, the expectations that we have going into negotiated rulemaking are really that this multidisciplinary effort is going to be more and more sort of embedded in the letter of the law as the law evolves. But certainly it's always a best practice in our mind to make sure that these folks are aware of their different responsibilities under the Clery Act. So I'm a little bit of a nerd, so hopefully my colleagues will forgive me, but I really love this quote from Scott Page, who's a researcher at University of Michigan, and anyone who joined us for our annual conference this year heard me use the same quote, so I apologize if there's anyone in the room who's heard this twice, but I think it bears repeating. So Scott did some research, or Dr. Page I should probably call him, did some research on how problem solving is actually really a group dynamic. Now, some of you, if you're anything like me, I used to hate group projects in school, so I might sort of put this in the better, easier said than done category, but it's a good ideal. So he said diverse groups of problem solvers outperformed the groups of the best individuals at solving complex problems. And the reason was that the diverse groups got stuck less often than the smart individuals who tended to think similarly. I really liked this quote for a number of reasons, and I thought immediately of Clery compliance. Mostly because of that stuck and also because of the smart individuals. We love working with higher education. There are so many smart individuals, probably more so than any other industry. And what we kept saying is people feel really stuck when it comes to Clery compliance. They have lots of great ideas. They feel like their institution could be doing better and they have lots of ways to do it. But oftentimes it's the same group that's talking about it. And so one of the things that we see at our trainings is that there's a lot of really wonderful solutions and ways to improve processes that happen as a result of diverse conversations. So not just talking with the same colleague who's down the hall and who agrees with you on everything, but also talking to the person who might not really be as familiar with Clery, but who might have a different perspective on it. Or even better, talking to someone who's at a different institution who's come across similar challenges and has actually thought about it differently than how you have. So we believe that diversity and sort of the buy-in that this program creates will hopefully facilitate some of this diverse conversation, because we believe that's where really some of the best solutions to current challenges in campus safety are going to happen. So if you're all still with me, this is what we kind of envision that sort of process looking like. This photo is from one of our most recent trainings with collaborative members. It was at Gwen and Mercy University here in Pennsylvania. And this was such a fantastic group. And I think it really hits home the importance of having multiple departments and different people at the table. So we received this request for CSA training. And you'll see the woman in the blue and the black blazer in the front, her name's Cheryl, and she got us all together and said, I want you to train my staff on CSA responsibilities, there was everyone who could possibly be in that room in that room. There was athletics, there was the health and wellness center, there was residence life, there was academic affairs, there was campus ministry. It was a fabulous group, and I have to say it's one of the trainings that we've gone to that's really worked the best because everyone was represented there. And so they got to ask the questions that they always wanted to ask, and they learned from each other in terms of, hey, I never thought about it that way, or I didn't know that that was a process that really seemed to stumble up a particular department or group. So I use this as an example. Certainly not every Clery training will have as many smiling faces, but we were really excited to work with such a truly diverse group of folks who were really coming together for the same purpose. And that's really ultimately the larger goal of the collaborative. So now I'm really excited to share with you, and these are really hot off the presses. We actually got the final report from our evaluation consultant yesterday at 6 o'clock. So you are among the first to know, including our staff, what the preliminary outcomes are of our pilot program in Pennsylvania. So again, as I mentioned earlier, we have 38 members who have joined the program. The preliminary outcomes that you see below represent 69% of our participating members who were either surveyed via phone interviews or an online survey that we developed. So these are kind of the highlights. There's certainly a number of different metrics that we used internally to kind of figure out how the program was working. But these are kind of the ones that we thought would be most relevant for this group. So 89%, as you can see there, rated their overall experience in the collaborative as either extremely satisfied or very satisfied. 89% reported that the collaborative helped improve compliance efforts on their campus. 93% of members would recommend the collaborative to other institutions, and 87% said they were either extremely satisfied or very satisfied with the quality and availability of resources through the collaborative. We're all perfectionists here at the Clery Center. And I think particularly with our member services team, we were thrilled to see such high numbers, but we are working every single day to get all of those up to 100%. We want to make sure that everyone who joins the program is absolutely thrilled and has real added value as a result of participating in the program. So while we're thrilled that that was so high, we are really excited in 2014 to really outpace those expectations and those results as we expand the program nationally. So instead of kind of giving you more numbers, I really wanted to use the words of our members, the feedback that we got from the report that our evaluation consultant provided us. So what you're looking at now is really feedback from members as to why they joined the program. I really loved this. Again, we could talk all day, but I thought the words they used were really, really perfect. So in talking about why they joined and expectations in joining the collaborative program, a lot of folks really identified collaborating with each other as a primary motivation. That was actually the overwhelming reason people joined the program. So as you'll see here, to engage with other colleagues from other institutions as well as the Clery Center in an informal way to test ideas in a collaborative environment. I loved that phrase. We really see the collaborative as kind of an idea lab where folks can suggest different ideas. You can see what works. You're sharing information about what's making a difference on your campus. So that idea of testing was really, really hit home for us here on our staff. Better training, more resources, and a closer relationship with the Clery Center. We did not intend at first to measure this, but we were so thrilled to see that a lot of people really identified working with our organization as a primary benefit of joining the program. As well as a primary motivation for joining. So as Abby mentioned, we do a lot here to try to make people's lives easier in terms of Clery compliance and campus safety, whether it's through technical assistance, member services. So we were really excited to see that that was part of the reason folks were joining. And then finally on this piece, to have access to resources and a framework to create a multidisciplinary approach. So one of the reasons I highlighted this one was, it isn't just the idea of having a multidisciplinary team in place when you join the program. It's also, does that team kind of consistently stay together on your campus and have conversations? So I love that someone highlighted that. The collaborative really does try to create that framework. So next up, you'll see the impact in our members' own words about the program. So I wanted to highlight this one. This talks a little bit about that multidisciplinary team. So one of the things that sort of on a high level that we saw was that right around half of our members so far, again, only 6 months into the program, have already changed or are considering changes to their policies or procedures as a direct result of participating to the collaborative. So I loved this quote because it really talked about one change that was mentioned frequently, which was the formal establishment or even an informal establishment of a multidisciplinary team to talk about Clery and campus safety issues. So this quote says, we were able to convince our board of the need to put in place a cross-departmental team, student life, VP of Human Resources, Department of Safety, etc. Now, any of you listening on this, that's an incredible feat, I think, to get all of those different groups all together consistently at the table. So I was impressed by that. Wouldn't have been able to do this had it not been for the collaborative program. It involves everyone who has a role, not just the Department of Safety, to identify responsibilities and to stay on top of it meaning compliance, policies, etc. It's our own collaboration on campus. So I love this quote because it really talked about, again, we so often see at trainings that it's just the campus safety folks who are there, or it's just one person. And so really the thrill for us was seeing that this program is doing what it's intending to, at least for the pilot phase, in terms of actually taking some of those conversations and creating an actual multidisciplinary effort on campus. So the next area that I wanted to highlight was the concept of cost effectiveness and sustainability. So one of the reasons we created the program was to really improve each institution, each participating institution's ability to have expertise and knowledge be in-house. I think so often folks feel like, especially with Clery compliance or Title IX, that they always have to go to a consultant or somebody else to get the right answers. And I think one of the goals of the program is to really make sure that people recognize that you have a lot of expertise within your institution, and this program allows you to really build that and create a sustainable base of knowledge within your campus community. So this respondent said it improved compliance, meaning the collaborative, by being able to have less experienced members of the university attend trainings. This gave us the opportunity to open up dialogue and discuss issues and concerns at the trainings and to bring that information back so we are all on the same page. And I think this connects a number of the different features that we talked about before. I'm thinking first off of training. So the idea that folks were sending different people to trainings, they could access that because there's a 20% discount. And for members, we hosted specifically free events that were just collaborative members only. And not only did they access that knowledge and be able to send folks who might be new to this, but then they also came back and shared that knowledge with that multidisciplinary team that they had in place. And that's really the whole point. This is also great too because when we look at the self-assessment program that's in place with the collaborative, you really want to make sure it's going to go a lot easier if you already have that multidisciplinary team in place to then take a look in a very formal way at your existing policies and procedures, and also to have that self-assessment informed by training. So again, this was great. We loved seeing that the way we designed the program was actually helping in a real and tangible way. And then finally, in terms of resources, and again, the cost-effective piece, I wanted to highlight this quote from one of our members. So they said that the huge benefit is that the quality is high. You gain a better understanding of compliance, students benefit, and the university saves money, builds capacity. Consultants and facilitators are one and done because that is all you can afford. So as I said before, a primary goal of this is to really bring a lot of this knowledge in-house. But I loved that they mentioned that students benefit. I think that's a huge piece of this, and it goes back to the mission that we talked about earlier. At the end of the day, that's the whole point of all of these efforts. We really want to make sure that the policies and the procedures that you're examining and implementing, ultimately, if they're done well, are going to benefit your entire campus community, including your students. So now I'm really excited and thrilled to invite Tim Alexander, who's the VP of Finance and Operations at ACUP, which is the Association of Independent Colleges and Universities of Pennsylvania, to speak. Tim was really instrumental in getting this program started in Pennsylvania. It was an idea that we had, I guess, early in 2011. And with help from his members and from his colleagues, we were able to really transform this from an idea into an actual practice. So Tim's going to provide a little bit of context into the work that he and his colleagues do as well as to talk a little bit about ACUP's endorsement of the collaborative program and why it was that they felt comfortable endorsing the program.
Thank you, Sam. Can you hear me all right there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Good. Muted me, so I'm sounding. To very quickly tell you who the Association of Independent Colleges and Universities is. Our organization represents 88 nonprofit private colleges in Pennsylvania. We're among 35 or 36 such organizations around the country who have been organized by the nonprofit private colleges in their states to represent themselves, represent the membership in their respective capitals, as well as in the United States Capitol as a lobbyist. Some of us do fundraising, some of us do research, and a growing number of these associations develop and identify collaborative opportunities, largely business services operations that offer either preferred services or cost savings, but essentially when you bring multiple institutions together, you hopefully provide a better than standalone product or program. And we've done a number of things in Pennsylvania, ranging from electricity procurement to telephone service procurement to EPA compliance to software and technology. And our history and our work specifically in self-auditing or developing self-audit mechanisms for EPA, OSHA, fire safety have been fairly strong offerings to our members. And when we first met with Clery, it was real obvious from reading their newsletters and seeing what they were publishing that they wanted to shift from the watchdog organization that they were to an organization that interacted with institutions in a different way. And I think it's fundamental that they use the word member when they refer to the colleges and universities within the collaborative. And I applaud that they've done that, because I think it really allows those participants within this membership community to find a safe place to collaborate on something that can be stressful, can be unnerving. Certainly here in Pennsylvania, we've experienced, not within the ACUP membership, but we've experienced a bright spotlight on activities at one of the public universities that really, while it didn't impact directly our member institutions, it certainly had everybody thinking about, well, what are we doing to make sure this kind of thing, this kind of activity couldn't happen at our institution. And so we've been interacting with the Clery Center for going on a year and a half, 2 years, really talking about different ways in which groups of colleges and universities can work together. All we've done at ACUP is talked about it, and the good folks at the Clery Center have been developing very tangible websites, online training resources. Certainly their webinars and face-to-face training sessions are going to be very valuable to you if you join this collaborative. At the few events that I've attended, the Department of Education has been there to contribute to the program, to contribute to the collaborative and provide value. They cannot endorse this program, and no one even suggests that the department has endorsed this program, but they certainly applaud it and they've participated. In contrast, our association reviews these collaborative programs. We have a fairly high bar and a fairly high review process, a committee and a board comprised of CFOs, CIOs, and college presidents. A board of 22 college presidents unanimously endorse the Clery Collaborative when they dug into it, and we're really proud and pleased that so many of our members within our association joined And to be quite frank, this is, I think, easily exceeding anybody's expectation, because as we embarked on this 7 or so months ago, the belief was that we would be opening this program to new participation after a 12-month pilot period, but it's really clear that what's going on here is better than expected. Two last things, and I'll finish up here. One of the things that I've noted observing the meetings is that as a participant in this program, your institution, you individually, and others from your staff will be a recipient of the benefits of this collaborative, but you will also become a resource for others. And this whole notion of sharing either on the website or in face-to-face meetings, in meetings that are safe in the sense that the conversations are confidential. Even with the Department of Education in the room, they make it very clear that this is a safe place to ask questions and develop those best practices. The last thing, I'm just going to reiterate what's already been said. We always think at ACUP about how we can develop a leveraged cost-saving solution that's better than better than what an individual institution might procure. And the vendor-driven solution, where you engage an expert or a vendor, can and usually results in a once-and-done experience. The collaborative model is designed to be driven by the members themselves within the collaborative. It's designed to be a best practices model. It's also designed to be continuous over time, and so that if you engage today, in 12 months you will still be engaged, and hopefully the processes, the training, the websites, the videos that are being produced by the folks at Clery will become regular tools that you use year in, year out, not a report that sits on the corner of your desk or sits on a shelf, but this will be something that will live and breathe. And we've been totally impressed with the Clery Center, with what they've done. They've exceeded what we thought it would be when they got started, and we're pretty happy, very pleased that it's opening up to institutions outside of Pennsylvania at this point. So with that, Sam, I don't know what else I could add. Turn that back.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. Those are very kind words, and we always appreciate your time. We know how busy you are. So thank you so much for really sharing that information with folks here today. We really appreciate it. All right, so what we'll go through next, just to kind of continue, and please also note, if you have any questions at any point, please let us know through either the chat function or the questions panel. You can also raise your hand, but we'll kind of move forward. I want to talk a little bit now about how you can learn more about the program. We've updated our website recently. If you go to clerycenter.org/collaborative, you can learn all about the program, including how to access some of the things that you'll see here. So the membership application process, frequently asked questions, a list of the resources that you'll get as part of your participation in the program. All of that's available now on our website, so I'd encourage you to take a look at that. So right now I'm going to go a little bit through the process that we have in place in terms of application. We are expanding the program officially on January 6th. And we're really excited to do that. So if you have an interest in sort of kicking off the new year with some Clery training and investment in campus safety, we'd encourage you to do that. It is going to be a quarterly enrollment process. So the way that that essentially works is that you can apply at any time, and we will essentially start cohorts of members in a quarterly fashion. So for example, if you were to apply and get your materials and payment in prior to January 31st, you would be participating in the first quarter cohort, then the next period would open up and close on April 1st, and then so forth. So we do have a schedule of that available on our website if you'd like to check that out, but just wanted to kind of make that process clear. for folks. What that also lets us do is really focus on getting new members up to speed and really making sure that everyone has the resources that they need to get started. So we will have quarterly welcome calls for new members to really walk them through the website that they have access to really direct them to any specific resources that they're looking for. Certainly our member services team is available to help you do that throughout the year and throughout your membership, but that really allows us to kind of intentionally get folks up to speed with the program and get started right away. So to get started, you'll go to our website. You can download a membership application as well as membership agreement form, and you can get a copy of that just by filling out a short form just to let us know that you want to download the materials. You can also pay for the membership fee right there on the website. The second module there you'll see is information about our membership fee. The program is a flat annual membership fee of $3,500 per institution. And it's worth noting we really built that fee to reflect the actual costs of the program. We are a nonprofit organization, so we really want to make sure that this program is financially sustainable so it can continue to benefit members. And it's also worth noting that that membership fee is truly institutional. So when you sign up and you pay your membership fee, you're not limited in terms of the number of folks that you can invite to use the secure member website or to access those resources, nor are you limited to just the team members that you've identified for folks to access discounted trainings, for example. So we really want to emphasize that we truly believe that this is a program that should be shared throughout an entire campus community. So we really don't place restrictions on, 5 and you're done. We want this to be something that you feel you can share with your whole community. So you can pay for that membership fee via online, as I mentioned before, via check. You can also work with us and request an invoice for a purchase order. Once you're all set up as a member, you've completed your application, you've signed your membership agreement, and you've paid your membership fee, we'll get you set up with our member website as well as send you a member welcome kit so that you can really get started right away with the program. You'll create a profile, and we're happy to walk anyone through this if you'd like to sort of take a behind the scenes look. But once your membership is activated, you'll get access to your institutional profile, the online resources library that we talked about before, as well as the online discussion board. You'll also get access to our member discount store. So if any of you have seen our online store at the Clery Center's website, you'll get 20% off of pretty much everything that we're not offering for free to collaborative members. So that's something that you can easily and quickly access through your login. And as I mentioned before, you can invite as many colleagues as you'd like to use the collaborative website, and we'd actually encourage you to do so. And then finally, in terms of access, as I mentioned, the Secure Member website is really the main hub. We do also provide ongoing communications from our member services staff to make sure that you know about new resources that we're developing. But the main hub of this program really is truly in that online fashion, the member website that we mentioned before. The self-assessment tool can be downloaded there. For example, you can then ask questions using the discussion board. And you can also get information about who else is participating in the program. So you'll have access to a member directory. If you've met someone at a training but can't remember their name, you can look them up by their institution and really contact them that way if there was something you wanted to collaborate on sort of offline. So it looks like we have a question coming in. Can we request an invoice prior to January 6th? Absolutely. If you'd like to get started, you can actually download those application materials today. So feel free to visit our website. Again, the web address is www.clerycenter.org, and then you'll see there's a area /collaborative. There's also a collaborative membership application tab that you can access and download those materials. So feel free to download them. If you have any questions about any of them, I know especially on the membership agreement side, typically that's a document that usually is reviewed by the legal department. We're happy to field those questions and work with your team as you're applying if you had any questions about benefits, about language and the application, etc. So we're here to assist you if that's useful.
And if you look in the chat panel, Bethany has shared those links in the chat panel, so you'll be able to link directly if you like.
Thanks, Bethany. So I'm going to wrap up by asking if there are any other questions. We're happy to go through sort of in more detail. I would encourage everyone to take a look, if you haven't already, at our website. We have updated it with very specific information. I know prior to this webinar, I spoke with many of you who are participating today, and you were really interested, particularly in the cost benefit. That's something that you'll be able to see quite clearly on our website. So I'd encourage you to do that if you have some time. So it looks like we just got another question in about how members will be sorted, state, type of college. So that's a really great question, and actually it's one of the pieces of feedback that we got from our initial evaluation. A current pilot member actually suggested that in terms of creating almost cohorts or subgroups of members. We'll say that, you know, with 38 members right now in the program, developing those types of substructures doesn't seem to make too much sense right now, just because it's in all likelihood there may be sort of one group, and it might just be a little too tiny to add value. That being said, I love the idea, and I think it's something that we will really keep in mind. State communities, it's an interesting question. So we partnered with ACUP, as Tim described, for the pilot. And I think there are a number of advantages, certainly, to having folks who are participating in the program who are in your backyard. That being said, the design of the program was really, truly to be national. So it's one of the reasons why we have a schedule, a training schedule that really reaches every region. So we're planning to have a physical presence in every region next year. And then we also have those virtual components that allow you to interact and collaborate with folks, regardless of whether they're within driving distance or not. So there are certainly advantages, and we acknowledge that a lot of you are actually working quite closely with one another in your own state or in your own regional community on some of these issues. So we really see this as an opportunity to kind of reinforce some of those activities and hopefully supplement it and complement it in a really powerful way. So it looks like we also had another question come in about, are there discounts for fellow nonprofits? So the flat rate is truly a flat rate. We chose to do that. I know there's a lot of memberships out there that are tiered models. We really believe, again, with the cost of the program reflecting the actual expenses that we're incurring, that's sort of the most accessible way to structure the pricing. That being said, if you're having any issues, or certainly payment, I think sometimes is the trickiest dog there in terms of, do I have to pay it all at once? My payment department is telling me that I can't pay this until X date. We're happy to work with you guys on that. So if you do have any questions, or if there's anything that will make your life easier in terms of making that payment, please don't hesitate to give us a call. We're happy to work with you. Does anyone have any other questions or anything that we didn't cover? I'm sure you can tell, but I could talk about this all day. So hopefully this information has been helpful, and we're excited to hopefully get feedback and suggestions. I think that's the other thing we'd love to hear too. If you have anything that you've seen work really well in your institution, or any regional associations or state associations you're a part of, we'd love to hear it. Okay, so it looks like for now we don't have any. I will stay on the line a little bit, but we know certainly you guys are busy. So if you have any questions, please feel free to sort of give us a call. We'll also be emailing the presentation to you all, so you'll have access to it after the fact, and that will include our contact information if you need to get in touch with us. So thank you so much again on behalf of Abby, Bethany, myself. We really appreciate you taking the time, and thank you to Tim Alexander for really giving us that information as well. And it looks like, do we have one more question coming in? Yes, we do. How does the collaborative aid program development? Oh, that's a great question. And actually, I might toss that to my partner, Abby, here, because she actually does more work on our program side than I do. So maybe can you talk a little bit about how our other programs complement the collaborative?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of opportunities, particularly with National Campus Safety Awareness Month and some of the other initiatives that we work on. We have a lot of different programs in place, but one thing that we've seen with the collaborative that's been valuable when it comes to creating programs and developing programs for your institution is that opportunity to have dialogue with other colleges and universities as part of the program, figuring out, well, what are you doing on your campus? What has been working? What has not been working? We have a couple of in-person events coming up with our pilot members in January, in which we're really going to be talking about prevention education on your campus, particularly looking at some of the changes that we see with the VAWA amendments to Clery, and examining what type of programming do we have available. some of the new requirements really introduce the need for campuses to have primary prevention and bystander intervention programs. So we're really going to be delving into, during those in-person meetings, delving into the question of what type of programming are you offering on your campus, and how do you incorporate bystander intervention and primary prevention if you haven't already. So it's something that we're really passionate about, that we're always happy to have a dialogue and a discussion about, and we really are seeing collaborative members connect on it as well.
That's great. And it's also worth noting that part of that welcome kit that I mentioned before actually includes 4 of our DVDs that are videos on a number of topics, but primarily on prevention education. So there's hazing, there's also sexual violence. So if you want to use those right away, you'll have those as members absolutely for free. So that's a great way to get started. And then the resource library that we talked about before actually has an entire section on prevention education, and that includes ideas not only that we as an organization have developed, but also partner organizations. So NACSAM, or National Campus Safety Awareness Month, has a number of organizational partners that we rely on that have really great programs and resources on stalking and hazing and dating violence. So we really want to make sure that members have access to that all in one place. So that's where the online resource library can also play a part in your program planning. So hopefully that helped answer your question. Are there any other questions or things we didn't cover? We're happy to answer them at this time. Okay, well, thank you so much again on behalf of all of us here. Looking forward to hearing all of you, and hopefully having you join the program in 2014. Have a great holiday season.